So, I know this is a little different. First and foremost, I wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. I know I'm a little bit small at the moment, but hopefully with time things can change. I wanted to start my YouTube channel off with a series that went over one of my favorite TV shows growing up as a kid. Even looking back now, all I can do is wonder why this show made me so scared in the first place. This show is called The Lost Tapes.
Do you believe? Lost tapes.
Am I dead yet? Now granted, these shows were scary. Usually every single episode kind of had the same theme. They would start off with a monster, and then they would talk about an experience with the monster, usually a story, and then usually everybody would die in the story. Sometimes they throw around some facts about the monster or things related to the monster. But if that wasn't enough, usually watching the show wasn't the scary part. Most of the scary part would usually come when you would finish watching the episode. Usually most of the time, people would have the same steps when an episode would end. They would either first change the channel or completely just turn off the TV. The majority of the time you'd look behind you just to make sure the creature wasn't there. You'd go to bed scared for about a week, check corners every once in a while. But if you were like me, you would usually watch the new episode next week, fully knowing that you would go through these steps again. Now I wanted to go through and look at a few of the monsters that I used to watch and love the most as a kid. First and foremost being the Chumpecabra. Now I wanted to start off with the Chumpecabra for a reason. I had a lot of backstory with the Chumpecabra. A lot of people would share about these stories at like a campfire or something like that, and growing up with a big family, that story eventually came across me. The Chumpecabra is actually called the goat blood drinker or something like that, but all you really had to know about it was that it would probably kill you. So I wanted to start off by looking and going through the episode and really just debunking it and finding out, well, why were you so scared in the first place? Hopefully all y'all can join me with this. So the beginning of every episode is kind of funny. It always talks about how there's a constant debate of whether these things are real. But if you have video evidence, shouldn't that make it real? The beginning of the episode talks about the Chumpecabra and some news reports, and then it goes straight into their intro. Now, the beginning of this episode talks about a very controversial issue in the United States, which is immigration. Now, regardless of your point of view, I really don't care. I like to talk about the main point when reviewing something, and honestly, most of these episodes do like a very poor job at talking about it. They seem to go off on a tangent a lot of the time, and I really don't know why, but we're going to try our best to focus on it. It starts off with a family, a little girl, parents, trying to cross the border. Not new. Then they start talking about different types of encounters with the Chumpecabra, and majority of the time, they honestly just look like dogs. Then it goes back to a newsreel, nothing new. Then it cuts to a scene of them inside of a truck in the desert, and little girl, why aren't you listening to your parents? Now, whether if it was the parents who didn't tell the little girl or the little girl didn't know, just do as your parents say. Now, that's a general trend that can be followed through all makes of life. Of course, there are some special parents out there, but I don't like to talk about them. Remember, we're staying on topic. Now, eventually this family is kind of kicked out, and a big reason why I don't find this believable is because whenever you hear about people being transported across the border, it's never usually just a few people. It's usually a lot of people at a time. To believe that somebody would give up their own life and risk jail time over 3 people is kind of unbelievable, but I'll ignore that part for the most time. Now it goes back to some immigration talk, and granted, like I said, let's ignore it. Now it's kind of funny because it cuts back to the family, and you can kind of see the dad and the other guy kind of getting into an argument, and the guy takes off his shirt for no apparent reason, and then he goes right back into his truck. Now you could argue that they were about to fight, but it looked like they were just arguing. Why are you going to take off your shirt? Then they cut to a video of some things to be worried about in a desert. Now, I believe that spiders, scorpions, and snakes are definitely something to be worried about. But then they cut to a video of some creature running away from a cameraman, and it just looks like a dog. Like they're trying to pass this off as the Chumpecabra. It's so hard to believe this, but it really just looks like a dog. Maybe a wild dog for the fact, but not a Chumpecabra. Then we go back to the family. They're walking through the desert and it's really nothing special, but then they hear a noise and they go off running. Now you don't see the creature at all, but you just hear the noise, and I'm sorry to say, but it doesn't sound like a noise you'd hear from far away. It sounds like just a soundboard edit that was put into the video, and it doesn't seem believable. Usually when you're recording something either far away or close up, you can kind of hear a muffle or some type of mute. And especially with the camera that it looks like she's using, you would definitely hear that, but you really don't. It just sounds like they just edited in the sound. Edited. Just ignore me, I stutter a lot. So they go off running, and then they do a transition into the Border Patrol agents who pick them up eventually. And it's some guy, Valentine or Valentine or something like that. And I'm sorry to say, but this doesn't look believable at all still. They eventually find the family, and the mom and the dad are both dead. They have 3 bite marks, and I'm sorry, but he goes into the straight conclusion that it has to be the Chupacabra. And where do you get that conclusion from? All you see is 3 bite marks. It could have been something else for some reason. They could have been shot by something, and you just make that straight conclusion. I don't believe that. He makes the conclusion too that they have no more blood. They were completely drained of blood. But if you look at the bodies, you can still see some pink, and I'm sorry to say this, but pink is blood. Anybody in the medical field can tell you that. Now, I'm going to show... Now, this part of the video is probably the funniest part. The pose of the dead mom is probably the funniest part of this whole episode, because every time I look at it, it just reminds me of a typical Family Guy character pose when they die. Literally leg up backwards and their hands up in the air. Like, could you have not thought of something more original? Like, maybe just flat on your back? So then they go on and they find the little girl eventually, and she's in some bush or whatever. And the Border Patrol agent does the stupidest thing that I don't know why anybody does in any type of horror episode or situation. I'm gonna go off and explore at night by myself, even though I have a gun. Yeah, it's fine, but everybody thought this would be a good idea. The episode even does itself unjust by saying that many animals are nocturnal, meaning they come out at night. Like, why would you go out knowing that? So, some more noises. Eventually, Valentine or whatever finds some loud noise coming from a bush or whatever, and then he goes running back, finds his partner, and then he tells them, come on, we gotta go out. So they go out, run into the open like they always do, and they come across a bush. Again, it's conveniently a bush, and they poke their head through, and you get this stupid image of what can only be described as a half bat, half dog. And then we're led to believe that maybe they didn't or did make it, and they didn't actually show any recollection. Like, I'd believe it if maybe they showed some interview with the person following the whole situation, but they didn't. And that's it. They just end it like that. They show a couple recollections of the video, but I don't find this believable. Like, I'm sorry to say, but the Chupacabra, first of all, isn't real. And second, in fact, most creatures do themselves justice by eating as much as they can. And for me to believe that an animal is surviving just off of blood, that's very unlikely. Even bats, who everybody believes that just eats blood, eats also insects. That's not possible to get all your nutrition just off blood. The funny part isn't that, it's the fact that a lot of people did believe this. And I believed it for a while too, but looking back, you really start realizing how bad these shows are. Now, I'm gonna go through the rest of the creatures later on in the episodes, but I just wanted to go on and say how dumbfounded I am knowing that this creature really did keep me up for a long time. It's not gonna attack like this. Thank you so much for everybody who actually came out and checked out this video. I might do some small promotions on myself, maybe just seeing how big this can get, but I like this experience. The whole point of me making a YouTube channel was because I'm tired of just sticking with the same circle that I usually am, and I'd love to just expand myself more. Now, I'm not the most crazy, edgy person in the world, but I'd like to find a group of people who like the sort of things that I do, beyond just my best friends. With all that said, thank you so much for checking out this video. I'm gonna see what I can do with this channel. I'd like to maybe do some gaming, maybe some vlogging, because recently my wife just told me that we're going to be doing a lot of traveling, and if you guys want to come along for that, I'd be more than happy to take you along with me. Now, excuse my editing skills because it's just me. I'm not that great of an editor, but maybe with time I can find someone and pick something up and maybe really just take off. But thank you so much for checking out this series. Thank you so much for checking out my YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe if you guys can. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace. Oh yeah, expect a lot of hand motions. Just for the record, guys, thank you so much once again for checking out this video. I know that it's going to be kind of difficult to take off from the start, but I'd really appreciate it if you guys could give it a like and subscribe. I just want to see if I really do like this. I want a new change of pace, and I'd love to talk about this with you guys in the long run. If you guys have any questions, I'll probably link my stuff in the description down below. But until then, thank you very much for checking my video out. I really appreciate it. Peace.